All right, day one, even though this is day 4, day one with adding and subtracting rational expressions with unlike denominators. So these two are not the same. All right, so what you have to do is you have to get them to be the same, meaning we have to find a common denominator. Now, this is a 2 and that's a 3. 2 and 3 both go into 6. All right, that's the smallest, the least common denominator. So that means we're going to get them both to look like 6, which means I'm going to take this 2 and multiply it by 3. And if I multiply the bottom by 3, I multiply the top by 3 as well. So this new fraction is 15/6. Now I could reduce that, but that would just give me this, and I don't need to do that. So now the second fraction, I need to multiply 3 by 2 to get 6. That means I have to multiply the numerator by 2 as well and get 16. And now I add. So 15 plus 16 is 31. I leave that over 6, and I have successfully added two fractions with unlike denominators. Now, if I wanted to change this up a little bit here and just show you exactly what we're working with or what we're doing, I multiplied that by 3 and that by 3. So up top I had 15, but on bottom I really had 3 times 2. I multiplied this by 2 and that by 2. So on top I had 16, but on bottom I really had 3 times 2. Now I show you this because that's what it's going to look like. All right. If this has a 2, it needs a 3 because of that. If this already has a 3, it needs a 2 because of that. And so if we get them to match, and we do, then we can actually add the top, because 6 is the same thing as 3 times 2. So I'm just showing you that because when we deal with variables, it's going to be important to know what we're working with there. Now, over here I have a 2 and I have a 4. Now I'm not going to change the second fraction because 2 goes into 4. So all I have to do is I have to change the first fraction by multiplying the top and the bottom both by 2. You get 14/4. Now I can subtract. 14 minus 11 is 3, and the denominator once again stays. All right. Now with neither of those, I didn't have to simplify or reduce afterwards. So that's it. Those are the first two problems I wanted to show you. Now we're starting with a really difficult one here. All right. This is 6 with an m plus 1, and this is 2. We have to get those denominators to be the same. So does 2 go into 6? It sure does. So I'm going to leave the 6 because I know that both of these are going to have a 6. Now how do I get this 2 to be a 6? I multiply by 3. So 2 times 3 is 6, but that means I have to multiply the top by 3 as well. All right, so now I at least have the numeric values are correct. Now this has an m plus 1, which means it still has to have an m plus 1. Does this one have an m plus 1? No. So I have to multiply by m plus 1 over m plus 1. Okay? So, now, I didn't have to change this one at all. All right, because 2 went into 6, and the m plus 1 just tacked on. So I'm leaving this fraction as 4m over 6 parentheses m plus 1. Now over here, however, I do have to work. My numerator, I have to multiply all this out. So I have 2m times 3, which is 6m. And then that's going to be multiplied by m plus 1. All right. Now that they have the same denominator, I can actually start making it look like an addition problem. 4m plus 6m parentheses m plus 1. This is all over 6 parentheses m plus 1. The only problem is I have to distribute this now. So what this actually is going to be is 4m plus 6m squared plus 6m. And that's all over 6 parentheses m plus 1. So all I did was I distributed that. Now I'm going to combine some like terms. So the 6m squared right here is going to stay out front. When I add the 4m plus the 6m, that gives me 10m. And that's all over 6 parentheses m plus 1. Now, on top, I can factor out a 2 and an m. So I'm going to factor out, I'm going to come up here actually. I'm going to factor out a 2m from the numerator. When you take each of these and divide them by 2m, you're going to be left with 3m plus 5. And that's still all over 6 parentheses m plus 1. Now, we can simplify. That's what we have to do. 2 and the 6 are both divisible by 2. So that turns into a 1. So my new numerator is m parentheses 3m plus 5. But when I divide the denominator, the 6, by 2, I end up with 3. With an m plus 1. Nothing else is going to simplify. That's an m, that's a 3. They don't mess with each other. These don't match up here and here. So that's going to be your answer. So let me go ahead and wipe this off real quick and show you what we could have done to begin this problem. What we could have done to make it a little easier is taken each of these fractions and simplified them first. So if I took these two and divided them both by 2, I would have gotten 2m over 3 parentheses m plus 1. Here, the 2's go away. I'm just left with m over 1. Now it's going to make it a little bit easier, because this is still going to be 2m, and that's 3 parentheses m plus 1. But this, I'm just going to have to multiply by this whole denominator right here. So I have to multiply by 3 parentheses m plus 1 over 3 parentheses m plus 1. That will get my denominator to be 3 parentheses m plus 1. And my numerator, if I just go ahead and take that, 3 times m, that's 3m, m plus 1. And now I do the exact same thing. I'll get the same answer. It's 2m plus 3m squared plus 3m. I distributed this, putting it all over that. And then I'm going to go ahead and simplify by numerator. So it's 3m squared plus 5m. And that's all over 3 parentheses m plus 1. I'm going to go ahead and factor the numerator just to see if anything goes away. It doesn't. You get m parentheses 3m plus 5. That's all over 3m plus 1. And I get my same answer. So that's what we get if we simplify first. We don't have to worry about it doing it later. All right, that was a tricky example. Let me go ahead on to let's do number 2. Why not? So, should I simplify first or not? No, I'm not going to. Why not? So I have 4n over, and now this is an n minus 2, and this has a 4. They don't have anything in common. So you're going to take this first fraction and multiply by n minus 2 over n minus 2. And so up top I have 4n parentheses n minus 2. And on bottom I have 4 parentheses n minus 2. Okay, that's my first fraction. My second fraction I have to get to look the same way, and this is a subtraction problem. So the only thing this needs, since this has a 4 and this doesn't, is a 4. So I'm going to multiply this by 4 over 4. So I'm subtracting this fraction here, so 12 up top, and then 4 parentheses n minus 2. The reason we did all that is so now these two match up. So that's my new denominator, 4 parentheses n minus 2. Leave it factored. It'll be good to just leave it that way. Now my numerator, I'm going to go ahead and distribute this. This is 4n squared minus 8. And this is going to be minus 12. I didn't have to use parentheses because I'm just subtracting 12. That's it. So now I'm going to simplify the numerator. 4n squared minus 20. This is all over 4 parentheses n minus 2. My numerator I can take out a 4. When you do that, you're left with n squared minus 5. So 4 and then n minus 2. So now I see that the 4's go away. This cannot keep being factored because that's a 5. All right. So then my final answer, my simplified rational expression, is n squared minus 5 over n minus 2. Once again, you can't simplify anything else because they're being subtracted. If there's a subtraction or addition, they have to match up perfectly if you are going to simplify. Thank you very much. There'll be another video.